Welcome to Decoding Confidence. I'm your host, Advita Patel, a confidence and leadership coach who is helping people be more confident in their daily working lives. In this special edition of Decoding Confidence, I am answering the questions that you've submitted over the past few weeks and hopefully be able to give you the answers that you want so you can lead a more confident life in the workplace. I hope you enjoy this episode. So today, I want to be talking about the questions you have submitted over the past few weeks. So today's episode is all about you. And I'm calling this Confidence Decoded. See what I did there? Switched it around. Confidence Decoded. So questions that have been submitted to me over the past few weeks, I'm going to try my best to answer them, and hopefully they'll help you if you are struggling with the same issues or challenges in your workplace as well. So I've got my trusty phone here with all the questions that I've received. And I'm going to try and get through as many as I possibly can over the next 20 minutes or so. First question is, hi Advita, thank you so much for your podcast. It's been keeping me company during my morning walks. Thank you for listening to me and taking the time. I really appreciate that. My question is, what do you mean about professional confidence, and what does confidence at work mean in terms of behaviors? What a great question to kickstart this episode with. So confidence at work, and I've said this a few times in previous episodes, confidence at work isn't about how loud you shout or how extroverted you are. Confidence is, it literally stands for con stands with, and fidence stands for trust. So confidence is about trusting yourself that no matter what the situation is, or whether it's, something that's uncomfortable, difficult, challenging, you have trust in yourself to be able to manage it and handle it well. And that's what I mean when I talk about confidence at work. Confidence at work means you should be able to speak up when you need to speak up. You should be able to share your ideas confidently and without fear or judgment. You should be able to help others do the same as well. And the reason I focus a lot of my energy on professional confidence is because in my research over the past 8 years, I observed and recognized that a lot of people, in terms of how they feel in their personal lives, is always driven by the behaviors at work, driven by the environment at work. Not many people can just switch off as soon as they get through their front door. They just can't. And in the world of hybrid working, in the world of remote working, and many of us are actually overlapping in our personal and professional life. So your home office might be your dining room table or your kitchen table or your lounge or even your bedroom. And when you're having those kind of difficult conversations in the workplace, and some of it may have impacted you, you are taking that into your personal life quite quickly. 20, 25 years ago, when that hybrid work wasn't as common, you could generally, on your commute back home or whatever, you generally decompressed, and you let the day kind of just wash by you. And by the time you got home, things felt a bit better. But we don't have that luxury anymore. We don't have that luxury where we can just switch off from everything. Even if we were going into the office, we've got mobile devices that has our emails on there, Teams that keep on pinging, out of hours WhatsApp conversations taking place. So we're constantly being reminded, I suppose, of the working situation. And when we're not having a great time at work, it can really impact how we show up. And that's what I mean. So when I talk about professional confidence at work, I'm talking about you having the ability to trust yourself enough to do the job you're being paid for at the best of your ability. And that's what my work involves. It's about creating that culture where you can do that. So I hope that answers your questions. And thank you again for allowing me to keep you company on your morning walk. It really, truly means a lot. So thank you for that. Question 2 has come from Laura. So thank you, Laura. She says, why do capable people still struggle with confidence? My goodness, what a great question. Why do capable people still struggle with their confidence? Oh, if I had one straight sentence to answer this question with, I would, but it's not that easy. And it's something that still kind of baffles me at times. And even though lots of people will often say, oh my God, you're so good, you're so great, this is brilliant. If you've got low self-esteem and self-doubt, you will not believe that easily. And in my experience and the research that I've done, capable people are often punishing themselves much more than anyone else around them punishes them, and they give themselves a hard time. So you may find yourself being a bit of a perfectionist, right? You may find yourself like always being number one. And when those things kind of are taken away from you or it doesn't happen as well, you are much harder on yourself than anyone else. And it kind of chips away at you. So it's a bit like a death of a thousand cuts. You've heard that analogy. You know, when you get one paper cut, it's, you know, you're not going to bleed out, but you get 1,000 paper cuts, then you're going to bleed out. And that's the same with confidence and self-esteem, that one incident is not going to impact you massively, but several hundred incidents over a period of time is going to knock you. So there'll be unsolicited feedback coming your way. There may have been a comment that someone's shared with you 20 years ago that you think you've forgotten, but it's actually quite deep rooted. Those are the things that can stop capable people feeling like they are able to do the work they're doing. And you get triggered quite quickly as well. And I know that word triggered is used quite a lot, but our brains are actually, created to protect us. They're created to protect us from hurting ourselves overall. And that means mentally as well as physically. So what it will do is kind of remind us of the time that we failed and make us feel a bit uncomfortable about doing it again because we recognize the hurt that we had last time. And when we feel that, we feel shame sometimes. So as capable people, you're generally reflective, you're really proud of the work that you're doing, you're credible. But if somebody questions that in some way or something happens that you failed at, it can chip away at you. And confident people, and I say this, being confident doesn't mean that you're going to be like linear. It's not going to be like a straight line that you're going to remain confident all the time. Life is a roller coaster. Life is a massive roller coaster. There are going to be things that are outside of your control that's going to knock your self-esteem and it's going to knock your confidence. The work I do in this space is about making sure you have the tools, the techniques, and the tips to get yourself out of that spiral as quickly as you can. Those who don't suffer from confidence lapses have to be a bit mindful about making sure they're not falling into the trap of overconfidence bias. And we can do that sometimes that in order to mask our own insecurities. We can go too far with our overconfidence and we can make catastrophic mistakes when we do that. And this is why self-awareness is really important when we talk about confidence. You have to know what your strengths are. You have to know what your capabilities are. You need to know where you're competent at. You need to know your strengths and you need to know where your opportunities are. And you need to be self-aware enough to know when you need to get help. I hope, Laura, that answers your question. I know that was a bit of a rambly answer, but it's really difficult to answer that question. Why do capable people still suffer from confidence lapses or low confidence? Because it's not the same answer for everybody. Everybody has a very different way of why confidence is impacting them. And it's different things for different people. You can be really confident in a big group or a big room, but then you can also be like not that confident in a one-to-one or vice versa. So it's about understanding yourself a bit better to understand why your confidence dips or why your confidence soars in certain situations. Hopefully that answers your question. But if not, let me know and I'll go back to it and be a bit more succinct with that one. Question from, they want to keep it anonymous, right? So, okay. Hi, Advita. Love your podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. I'm really looking forward to getting your book. Thank you. And just on that, you remember that you can buy a signed copy of my book if you want a signed copy. Just a side story on this. I once was approached by somebody at an event who had a copy of my first book. And they had the book in the hand and I said, do you want me to sign that for you? And she went, no, thanks. Says I'll donate it, which is great. Like, pass it on. But talk about being humbled in that moment. So I know not everybody wants a signed copy. I get it because you may want to donate it. However, if you do want a signed copy of the book, then I have limited editions available on my website. So if you visit my website, decodingconfidence.com/book, or you can just go on the menu and click on book, you can order it, pre-order a signed copy. I've got 50 copies of signed versions available. So order it there if that is your bag. But if you're going to pay it forward, then fair enough. Get it from many of the online retailers. But I thought I'd share that story of me being humbled quite quickly. Anyway, question from them is confidence something you're born with or can you build it? I've said this a few times in a previous episode. So if you haven't listened to my previous episodes, please go back and listen to them because I've kind of covered this off. Confidence is a trainable skill. Confidence is something you can train. Confidence isn't something that you are born with. It's like any skill that you learn. If you're doing Excel learning, if you're going to learn about AI, that's exactly what confidence is. You are not born with it at all. Nobody is born with confidence. The environment may dictate how you show up for yourself. The privileges you may have, well, it may dictate how you show up for yourself and how confident you feel. But nobody is actually born feeling confident. Circumstances around them may help them be more confident, but generally most people can learn how to be more confident in themselves. So yes, it's a trainable skill. And this is exactly why I'm doing this podcast. It's exactly why I've written the book, Decoding Confidence. It's about helping people build skills in how they show up for themselves and feel more confident, but most importantly, how they help other people show up in themselves as well, which is why the book is kind of in two. It's about your confidence, but also the people that you work with. So yes, short answer, no, confidence you're not born with, you can train it. Hopefully that answers your question. Oh, this is a great question. Hi, Advita. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to ask questions. How do you stay confident in environments that don't feel inclusive or safe? Right. As some of you may know, if you have followed me for a while on any platforms, that inclusive cultures is my kind of the work that I do in my Comms Rebel agency consultancy that I run. And this is such a powerful question. So I'm just going to take a pause so I can answer this as best as I possibly can. If you are working in an environment where you don't feel included and you feel excluded and you're being treated differently to the rest of your team, then I can guarantee that you are not going to feel as confident as everyone else in that room who may be being treated fairly or equitably. Confidence is contextual. It's shaped by who's in the room. It's shaped by how safe you feel in order how you speak up. And it's also whether your contribution is genuinely welcomed. The environment is critical in how confident you feel. Sometimes what we label as a confidence issue, and this is why I've got a bit of a bugbear about imposter syndrome, because imposter syndrome is the feeling like you feel like a fraud, right? Like you don't belong and you're going to get found out one day. And that feeling, by the way, is completely normal in the first few months of a brand new opportunity or a job or a project or a new house that you moved into, whatever. Like you may not feel like you belong in the first few months because you're learning new ways and you're learning new cultures. Get that. But if that feeling continues, for a long period of time, then often, in my experience and the research that I've done, it's the environmental issue that's causing you to feel that you don't belong. It's not on you. It's not about you. It's about the environment that you're in. And in those situations, confidence might look less like pushing yourself to speak and more like protecting your energy and choosing your moments and finding your allies. And most importantly, if this continues, figuring out your exit plan. Because if you're constantly being bashed back and forth and not treated well, and you're not being involved or invited into projects and you're being excluded intentionally, that is a red flag. And if your confidence is in tatters, and they do this by purpose, by the way, some people do it by purpose. And I said that before about the death of 1,000 cuts. You have to be mindful about where your energy is being consumed. And what happens in that situation is when people chip at you little by little, they're doing it to break you. They're doing it so you don't feel you're able to give your gift or your qualities or your skills anywhere else. They want to keep you boxed in. They want to keep you making sure that your head is low and you don't go above that parapet and you do what is asked of you. You don't ask questions. You don't make a fuss. You just crack on. And that is not a way to live a life, and it's not a way to have a fulfilling career. So if you find yourself in an environment where you feel excluded, you feel disconnected, and your confidence is being shattered, find your allies, speak up to trusted sources, find somebody who will, give you that coaching or mentoring. But most importantly, start planning your exit strategy, especially if you don't think you can change the culture. And especially if you don't believe you've got supporters in that workplace, you have options. Many great people out there say things like, you're not a tree, you're not rooted. You may feel like you're stuck because you need the money, your financial circumstances are dictating what you're doing. The economy isn't where you need it to be. That's okay. I'm not saying quit straight away. What I am saying is pause, reflect, measure where your energy has been consumed, be really mindful and intentional of your next steps, and protect yourself through allyship, through a community outside of work, through mentoring, whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe. But start planning your exit strategy. And what I mean by an exit strategy is understanding what your next role looks like. Who do you need to speak with? Remember, in one of the episodes, I spoke about your board of directors, your bridges, your connectors, your questioners. Find those people and make sure that you're surrounded outside of work with people who are supporting you. And that is one of the best ways to manage a situation that you have no control over. So I really hope that answers your questions. And if you have any follow-up, please do DM me, because I really want to make sure that you get the answer and the support that you need. And thank you so much for asking that question, because I know there'll be lots of people out there who are suffering with the same issue or are struggling with the same challenges. Okay, thank you for asking that. Right, I think we may have time for a couple more. Hi, Advita. Thank you so much for your podcast. I absolutely love it. What is one practical habit people can start to do at work to build confidence? I love that question. Thank you for asking it. So my big tip, and I've shared this a few times, is to start collecting evidence of the great work you are doing. There are so many people who don't do this. I talk about the smile file, the happiness folder that I have on my phone. And on my phone, there's a folder in my photos library where I collate feedback, testimonials, quotes, photos, anything that demonstrates not only my skill and my talent, but also the things that make me happy. So that folder for me is a collection of all the things that I have done over the past 8 years that I remind myself of when I'm feeling a bit low, or when I face rejection, or when I failed at something. And I'll go into that folder and it'll remind me that actually I'm not bad at my job, and I have done great things in the past that have allowed me to be the person that I am today. So that's my number one tip to you. Start collecting your evidence at work. Start collecting quotes, testimonials, feedback. Get into the habit of asking for feedback from people that you work with as well. Like, make sure that you say after end of a project or end of a campaign, I'd love to get a few words from you on how you thought that campaign went. How do you think my contribution was? Ask your line manager, write it down, get them to write it down and email it to you, and save it. Save it in a folder, screenshot it and put it in your phone, whatever works for you. Saving your evidence and receipts of the greatness that you have brought in certain situations will remind you when you are facing adversity, when you're facing rejection. Because we do. I say all the time that I have failed more than I have succeeded. And I need to remind myself that those failures have taught me something about myself. And as long as a failure teaches you something and it allows you to keep on growing, same as Carol Dweck's growth mindset philosophy, then that's the best thing that you can do for yourself. And to remind yourself of your greatness, the smile file will help you. So hopefully that's one habit that you can implement immediately. So as soon as you finish listening to this episode, start a file in your phone, start a file on your laptop, wherever, and start saving in all these amazing pieces of feedback and quotes and pictures and memories and things like that. I've got something like 8,000 pieces of things in my folder. I probably need to go through and clear it all out, but it just shows that when you're a bit more intentional, you can gather some of this great stuff. And from the small things to the big things as well. You don't always just have to collect all the big, massive pieces of feedback. So hopefully that's helped and given you some indication on what you can do to build your confidence by one habit at a time. Okay, I think that is probably the last question, just bearing in mind of the time that I'm taking up of your day. So thank you so much to everybody who has sent those questions through. And I hope if you're listening and you face some of those challenges yourself, my answers have helped you. Please do drop me a note at Advita at decodingconfidence.com if you have any follow-up questions or any further thoughts. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast. I do appreciate you and everything that you have shown me in terms of support. If you have found this podcast episode interesting, exciting, useful, helpful, whatever, then I would love you to leave a review for me. Thank you again. for all your support, and I'll see you on Monday, where I will be talking about integrity. That's what I'm talking about, integrity. Enjoy the episode and enjoy Monday's episode as well. See you soon.